When I became an assistant vice president, I was like, I have made it for 6 days. I thought I'd feel better. I thought I'd be more confident. I thought I'd have more freedom, financially more freedom, schedule more freedom, impact more. And I was like, I'm still the same very self-conscious, people-pleasing person. It takes a lot more preparation. I So I don't think people would realize how much preparation I take in all aspects of life to show up as being consistent. Being mediocre at something and being excellent at something is both hard work.
Connie.
Yes.
So why did you choose women entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So there's 3 passions of mine when it's specific to like women entrepreneurship journey. The first one I always call is the prioritized warrior journey, because I think women have a facade of we have to do all things at all times, all 7 days a week. And it's just a different process that's a false expectation we put on ourselves. So I love specifically working with women entrepreneur to go, what do you want that schedule to look like? How do you want to be a prioritized warrior for your family's calendar, for your self-care calendar, for your work calendar, the way you serve in whatever community that is? I always like the metaphor of your calendar is the battlefield, and not in a negative sense, but in a sense of like, it is your responsibility to have a moat around that calendar. And I don't know in any personal or professional development I've ever taken when it's aligned with time management, prioritization, efficiency. It's always been more in the work is work, life is life. You got to figure out these different, hard, fast tactics. And I love saying that like leisure doesn't work. And I find that women think it's okay to always be working and always be leisuring from 6 a.m. to midnight. That's probably not sustainable, right?
So there's no distinction.
Yeah. Leisure doesn't work. And so because women have been, taught, we are great multitaskers. Doesn't mean we should be doing multitasking. As entrepreneurs, that's not a good skill set. We may have it, but it's not one we should be monetizing. So I'm very mindful of, I love working with women and being like, how do you want to shift your days? Is your mornings every day your personal part of your life? Is the early afternoons always the time that you're going to be focused on the business deliverables? And then at night, is that your self-care shift? So I love being able to have that nuanced conversation to go, you are actually in control of that. You put the variables and boundaries on that, and to just help them talk that through and get clarity on that there's not a right prescribed formula. Let them customize that. I love that. I love that piece puzzling together, and letting them in the season of life that they are decide what they want that to be. Second passion about women business owners is demystifying, is it okay to be hungry for the sale? And it is. Is it okay to actually want to drive revenue in your business? It is. And I'm such on a mission to do that in an ethical, it's not transactional kind of way, but it is okay to want to desire to have an impact and make profit. And I just want to normalize that conversation for women business owners, because I think a lot of co-ed or a lot of male entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, franchise owners, they're always talking profitability, watching the margins. How can we monetize this asset? But for women business owners, it's like, we're marketing and we're making impact. And I'm like, well, your impact's in the negative. Like, that's great. And so just normalizing that where it's not a uncomfortable conversation to have. Last but not least, I always love the dynamic of CEO and employee. I find that because the CEO role of running your life, running your business is something that, again, most women are just uncomfortable even with that title. And I was like, well, fortunately or unfortunately, you signed up for that title and you didn't even apply for it, right? Like when you start your own business, you are the CEO of that company. And again, teaching women to take that title, take it off the pedestal and go, you're doing it every single day. You have incredible transferable skills of what you've done in past positions or in past ways that you negotiate with your family, with other vendors, what you've done for, all your other ventures, but getting them to a place where they are taking extreme ownership of their business is probably the last part that I just love seeing that transformation happen.
Where do
Yeah.
you think environment comes into play with that?
Yeah. I think we're not, for most women business owners, we're not even aware. It starts with awareness. We're not even aware that we're so timid and uncomfortable taking on extreme ownership, right? We're that environmental cue is like, no, I'm going to be more in a again, not a bad or good way, but it's probably not fruitful for running a business. I'm going to be more passive. I'm going to be on, I don't want to come off too aggressive. I don't want to come off as too pushy or too salesy. So there's this almost like false training in the environment to go, I'm just going to put it out there and we'll see what clients get attracted. I'm like, that's not a business model.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it's just bringing more awareness to go, you can still have a very interpersonal style of your sale approaches. You can still be very welcoming and community, centric in how you want to bring your brand awareness. However, that's not going to always bring conversion. That's not always going to bring retention to your business model. So again, it's just an awareness to go, I didn't even know those departments needed to exist.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so women feel like they're always kind of riding shotgun.
I think shotgun, or again, the timidness to say, I think over and over and over, the thing that I hear as a red flag trigger is, I don't want to come off too pushy. And when I always shift a woman business owner, to say, it's actually confusing for a prospect and it's actually disrespectful to your book of business to not provide clarity. And
We-
that's the look they give. They're like, oh, that's true.
Well,
So-
we get that a lot in the real estate business. We constantly are, when we're training agents, they're like, well, that's too pushy or that's too salesy.
Yep.
I don't want to be the pushy salesman.
Yep.
So it's interesting that you get that same pushback.
Yep. And that you want to provide clarity, right? Like, you are an expert. You have decades of expertise that I would never know that I don't know. So instead of looking at it as you're pushing me or aggressive with your information, your education, your workshops, any events that you're doing, I always look at it as, I'm like, you're inviting me to a pool party. That's not uncomfortable. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go have fun at the pool party. So I think in our service-based industries, it's looking at it at that approach to go, you are helping people have community, have a wonderful safe space to ask questions they don't know. And because we have blind spots that our expertise can help shine light to, provide some direction to, give them more, information around, that's all inviting someone to a pool party. That isn't pushy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the thing that you brought up about building a moat around your business.
Yeah.
I could see how that's difficult. Do you get a lot of pushback because I think women always like to feel like they're approachable.
Yeah.
And they don't have boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know with my wife, that's kind of how it is. She's just she just likes to say yes, and she doesn't like to say no.
Yep. Yep.
So how do you overcome that?
I always say I play out the movie in 5 years. So let's play it out. It's 2030. It's New Year's Eve. We're blowing the whistle thing and wearing our cute little hats, and we're celebrating the last 5 years of our business. I don't think a lot of business owners, men or women, go in 5 years, if I don't get a wrangle on my calendar, I'm going to really enjoy that New Year's party. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to say I'm overworked. I'm going to start resenting the business. So the way I play that out is, because a lot of the time women are week to week, month to month, maybe they're planning quarterly calendars, maybe they're looking that far ahead. When I forecast that out and go, in 5 years, if you keep doing this lack of respect for your calendar, you are going to start resenting the whole reason you started your business. And so that is usually a little kind of a paradigm shift. And also the sense of urgency, and the sense of, I respect my 148 hours a week, but who's counting, out of the calendar, it actually models for other business owners, colleagues, friends, family members, to go, I respect our quality time together. So when I show up, I'm going to be fully here, present with you, right? Like, that's a lost art, that I can show up and be here and not be, I got to worry about my next thing. And then, oh my gosh, I've let this fall through. It's helping women understand that if you get the wrangle on the calendar, you can have a sustainable business model. Because most of my clientele are on that verge of extreme burnout and it's chaotic. Connie, you don't understand. I'm putting out fires all the time. And I always go, did you train your clientele and your team to be okay with that?
Oh, that's difficult.
Did you train them to know that that's the norm? Because I haven't trained my clientele that way. I haven't trained my team, my networking colleagues to know that Connie operates with her hair on fire. I've never trained them that that's
Right.
my norm.
Other than you answer the phone at 9 p.m.
Right.
That's part of
but then you're training them to go,
Yes.
that's okay. So
Yep.
I always say from a tactile way, I have communication hours on my calendar. And again, there's pushback. Connie, I got to be available 24/7. Well, if you look at supply and demand, if you are always available, you are actually less valuable. That's just human nature, right? So when I say my communication hours, people crack up. On my emails are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays are my main communication email segment. So if I received this email, this is what it says. I will be getting responded back to all my text messages, all my emails, all my DMs, all the letters that came from the birds, all the ways that we have communication. And I say, but this will be my primary communication time. So I'm leveling expectations. I'm training, I'm setting expectations to go, just know I will make sure that I get my full attention to respond to this email. We're not going to ping pong back of wasted time.
Wow, that's so difficult.
Difficult, but plausible. And because we haven't set those boundaries, it's a new way of doing business. But I will tell you, I've always scaled my business and been able to be super direct with my clients and with people that I network with to say, again, I want to be fully present with you. So can we look at tomorrow at 2:00 instead of ping, pong, text message, this? That's not quality communication, right? And Ruben, my background's in communication. Like that's what I studied was sender, receiver, receiver, sender. And we always have noise. And that was 20 years ago. So fast forward. So fast forward, 2025.
There's more noise.
Yeah. There's more noise. And the lack of, I just always say respect, right? Like the lack of, I'm just going to ping somebody and they're going to ping me back. And now it is 10 p.m. And now it is. And I always say there's about a 20% bucket of communication that should be when it's emergencies, when it does have a hard stop deadline at 8 a.m. But I articulate those things, right? Like even when we got on today, I was like, hey, I mindfully need to make sure I express my healthy boundary of a, X amount of time spot. That's normal. I do that in every connect. I do that in every conversation. I do that with every client call, just so that I'm modeling for them like, hey, our time is important. And I also want to honor if you have a hard stop, I'm going to make sure that you can articulate your boundary in that.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's a myth that availability is service.
Yeah.
Is good service. Yep. And if you're not available, that's not good service.
Yep.
So.
And it's leveling expectations to say, here's our process. We get an inquiry from you. You want to connect. We met at a great networking event. Here's my networking connect calendar every Tuesday from 9 to noon Mountain Standard Time. Which time slot would serve you better? Does that not just come off as more of a professional anyways?
Sure.
That didn't come off as like, oh, it's like, man, I need to have my connecting time on my calendar. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. Because then I'm able to manage every Tuesday is when I need to show up and be the go-giver mentality on my connects. Not, I have a client call, I'm running to this, I'm going to squeeze you in, Ruben. We're going to meet from 10 to 10:30 and then I got to go to my next thing. That's not going to create a really long-lasting business relationship or have the client be like, wow, like Connie's really present in that experience.
Mm-hmm. So what's the biggest, I love all that. What's the biggest challenge that you have when an entrepreneur comes to you and they're like, I want to start this business?
Yep.
And you're like, I don't really see that as a business.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you go with the self-discovery method where it's like, oh, let's just go through this and let them self-discover? Or do you automatically just say, I just don't see this working out?
That's good. I look at two things. I look at their strengths. Like if that's really where their strengths lie, because a lot of us start our passion because we've either experienced, I always say like, you're sometimes a product of your product. You had a really bad experience or a really great experience in that industry, in that field, and you're like, I want to make that impact for the next fill in the blank. That's usually what an entrepreneur tends to do is like, I want to start this business. I want to monetize this part. So I'm always looking at like, do those strengths lie in a place where you could do that for 5 years, 10 years? Because I always think when a business owner is starting a business specifically, they're looking at the next 3 months. 3 months is a blimp
Right.
on a strategic plan of a business, right? I'm always looking like, what does the business model look like? Tell me what the widgets are that you think are going to be valuable to those customer base. And again, most business owners don't even have that business language. So I help kind of create some structure of that. I always say, get out of your head onto paper. So when a business owner says, I have an idea, or I want to scale one part of my business, or I have this new e-course I want to build out, I'm like, get out of your head onto paper. If you can clearly articulate what that is, what that deliverable is, then I'm like, then we have something to work with, right? But when we say so general, because it's exciting, it's a great dopamine hit as an entrepreneur, but like, I'm going to scale that and I'm going to do that. And that's the best next shiny thing. And then Tuesday rolls around and we have no idea of like, where does that fit? How do I do? Who am I selling that to? Then reality sits in. So I usually have them go through that process. If they can self-articulate back to me in a couple years, what's that asset actually look like? What are you actually doing every quarter with that content, that product, that way? And it could be any business model, which is super cool. I think people get freaked out to go like, you don't understand my industry. And I go, but business model strategy is pretty simple. It's supply, demand, and leveraging. Over and over and over. How do you create the demand? Is the supply there to meet that? And how do you leverage your greatest asset, which is your strengths?
But I really have a passion for it, Connie.
Yep. And then I always say there's wonderful opportunities to volunteer. You can always mentor because I'm very passionate about the fitness industry. I know I will never monetize. Do you know what I mean? Like I will never monetize that piece. I would have to take so many certifications in a loving way. It is not something that I want to then have to put the business hat on for Connie. So I'm very passionate about let's get new people into the bodybuilding community. Let's make sure people do know about health and nutrition and vitality. And let's do walking connects. It's part of my brand. It's part of my heart, but it's not part of my capital B business.
Wow. That's a great example.
Yeah.
Because
I will never monetize that. It's said today. I will never monetize. Right? Yeah. Oh. Because you can be a role model. You can have impact. You could go volunteer at the kiddos XYZ. You could go, be part of, there's always, fitness challenges that you could go be a judge at or go be a volunteer at. And you could always still have that passion be made. But I always say, I'm like, I'm a kind of Rain Man person to go, we need to learn how to monetize that. If you're really passionate, but there's no end goal of another person is going to pay for your passion, then we shouldn't probably play in that playground.
Well, how do you test that up front?
That's good.
Like, how would you do that?
If there's not a competitive analysis, if you're like, I'm going to go build this widget or no one has ever done this service, that's probably not a good thing.
Oh,
really?
Being original is not good.
I want to say being original, having a brand new way that you package X, Y, Z, and you're trying to do what that's called like a blue ocean strategy, right? Did you know this book? This is so good.
Blue Ocean.
Blue Ocean strategy.
Okay.
So red ocean strategy is what it visually looks like. Shark infested waters. You've got all these different competitive pieces, right? That's actually a solid, what we call social proof.
Oh,
it's social proof.
If there's competitors, that means there's a demand.
Need. It's like, how are they doing it? What is their uniqueness? How do they offer it? What's their quality of service? All those things. I'm like, that actually is a quote unquote safer way to go into a business. When it's a blue ocean strategy and you're like, no one's ever done it this way, that way, and did this part of like, a membership model or a way of monetizing this course. I always say that is going to be a harder sell because you're having to not sell whatever that quality content is. You're having to just teach me what that is. I have no context of meeting someone like you in my life. That's probably not the best monetized business model. So if you can take more of a red ocean, it's existed, but you tweak one part, or you become a little bit more unique in one space. That's probably your better, more sustainable business model.
So if I came to you and I was like, I really have a passion for shrimp ice cream.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Shrimp ice cream.
I love shrimp ice cream. And nobody serves it.
Yes.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yep. I would absolutely say we need to leverage all the 3 top ice cream business models, and we just need to do an adjacent side marketplace for all just the shrimp lovers in the ice cream market. We do not need to come up with Shrimp Ice Cream LLC because it's such a small segment that you're going to sell to 2.5 people.
Right.
And then we're probably not going to have cash flow the next month.
Well, I think that's where entrepreneurs make the mistake, is because they're like, oh, I got to get a logo first. Oh, and then I got to get a phone system. And then I got to get office space.
I know.
Or I got to rent somewhere. Good. And it's so like, even before the idea is even proven that there's a market for it.
Yep. And all that is called is social proof.
Yeah.
Like if you can get to a place where you're at networking events, I always say start at that process. When you share and someone goes, tell me more, I'm interested, I have a connect for you. That should be gold stars. That should be green lights in your head to go, that's resonating with individuals that don't even know me. They don't even know me, like me, trust me. We have no tie together, but they're like, that's interesting. Or I have someone that I think would be a fit for that. That's a great way to social proof that. To your point, before you go buy a $10,000 website, before you go build out a point of sale system with all the shrimp ice cream on there, pause. And I say for about 6 months. I always encourage for about 6 months of a container to go to a couple different marketplaces in terms of networking, in terms of actual zip codes, in terms of some virtual experiences. And I always say, if you have about an 80% response rate in terms of that clicked with somebody, there was a fruitful introduction, they did go, oh, I would know someone that would be interested in that. Invest in that research and development 10 times over before you go and do the actual outward labeling of a business.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was listening to, do you know who Daniel Ramsey is?
Yes.
Love that guy. Love that guy.
Yes.
And he was talking about the new way of starting businesses is getting discussion groups going.
Yeah.
Go get a discussion group and get people on a waiting list.
Yes.
And that's sort of proof of concept, proof of market.
I love that. I love that.
Like, oh, we don't have the shrimp ice cream right now, but if you're interested, get on the waiting list and we'll invite you to an event. You can taste, maybe taste some ice cream. But I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And that's also a focus group.
A focus group, right? Another word for focus group.
And focus group. Yep. And I always say start outside of your first circle of influence, because
the mom, dad,
they're going to all go, brother. That's the best idea ever. Is it?
No bias whatsoever.
Yeah, is it? Or they're going to also be the ones that, because they love you and they don't want to see you quote unquote fail at something, they also going to be on the other side of the spectrum to go, keep your real full-time job. You're crazy. I've tried that 20 years ago that you didn't know. I tried my business and this business. It's going to be too hard. So what I find is your immediate circle of influence, when you're beta testing concepts, ideas, please get out of your first circle of influence, please, because it's usually really skewed data. It's your super fans that are wearing rose-colored glasses, or it's going to be your highly I love you people, but they are the ones that usually kind of, just dim the light, and they're probably not your ideal clientele anyways.
Right.
So I always say, go to your second circle of influence, go to your third circle of influence, where there is it won't impact me of how transparent you are with your feedback. Right? That is wonderful data to start making some decisions on.
That's scary though, because you're sort of scared of the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scared of the truth, but I also go, before you go and invest in dollars to the space, the brick and mortar, you leave your full-time job, maybe you need proof of concept so that you either know we need to tweak some things, this is appropriate or this isn't appropriate. Because when I left higher ed, full-time position, assistant vice president at 29. Like I was like, okay, but I want to move where I'm not just part-time coaching, consulting, doing strategic planning, building out curriculum, researching curriculum for small business owners. I did 2 years before I actually left and said, would this be my coaching style? Does this hit a sweet spot? Is there enough coaches actually similar that, yes, there is a need for this. I will just have my own unique style before I ever shifted out of a full-time position. Right?
You took your time.
Absolutely.
Did you research?
Absolutely. And I always think when a business owner is thinking about it and they have a full-time job or they're wanting to do a big transition, the kids left, or, they're not passionate about their, full-time job anymore. I'm always like, take a year. It is worth every minute, because then I could hit the ground running when I moved back from Denver, and I went from 0 to 60 in 120 days and had a full book of business because I took, not because that's incredible in 120 days. It's because the 2 years I took in gaining clarity, what I would do, pre-marketing to the Denver marketplace. So then when I got here, I was like, I know what my 120-day plan is. I wasn't sitting in contemplation anymore.
Right. No.
Yeah.
That's so key.
Yeah.
So what's your superpower? Like what do you think you do something like you're really good at it?
So good. So are you familiar with StrengthsFinder? Do you know the StrengthsFinder assessment? Yeah, the book, like the Gallup assessment.
That book's probably a decade.
Yeah, I know.
Old.
I'm always aging myself. I'm always like some of the older things work, guys. So like you don't need all the fancy schmancy stuff, I swear. So Gallup research is one of the most basic, in a good way, basic, foundational, researched over and over and over to take that leadership assessment. There's the Enneagram, there's the DISC, there's so many other that I'm like, I love that as an addition, but I always have believed that the StrengthsFinder, when I took that and saw that my number one strength, my balcony strength is what I call it, the one that I'm like, hey, that is the way I'm going to best serve. That assessment showed me very clearly that it's futuristic. So I always say the way that I'm able to pay forward for my family, myself, my well-being is I am always looking at what is that end goal in the long term, so then I can reverse engineer that. That I am. So
you back into it
always, and I'm like if you say like what is your superpower in that, I literally at 18. So this is way before I took the assessment. At 18, I had an Excel spreadsheet when I finally knew what an Excel spreadsheet was, and I built out 18, I can't make this up, 18 to 25, Connie, 25 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And I made a tab. Yeah, the eyes are this big. I made a tab every decade to go, let me futuristically go, what's going to be my priorities in my 40s? Where do I want to live in my 50s? How do I want to serve in my 60s? I'll never want to retire in my 70s. So what is that chapter of life going to be? I thought everyone did that in college.
No.
So I've learned to monetize that skill set, where then when I left college and got my master's, and I was like, cool, I'm halfway through that checklist of like, that's going to be some experiences. That's going to be some professional development I want. Those are going to be some social experiences that I want to go explore or travel. And I looked at that holistically. I always thought people reverse engineered their years. And so I always say when the movie came out, Benjamin Button, I'm like, I'm getting better every decade. I'm getting younger every decade, because in my 20s, it was a lot. I pushed myself a lot. I failed a lot. I learned a lot, but I knew in the long run, I'd have less risk. I didn't have kids, wasn't married. It's okay to make mistakes in your 20s. So I absorbed all of that and was like, that.
But was that a goal?
Yes. Yes.
So when
I put myself out there so far. I wouldn't do that in my 40s chapter, FYI. The 40s chapter is a little more stable, but I knew I needed that grit. I knew I needed to fail over and over and over and put myself out there, and every opportunity to go speak, to go train, to go consult, to get certifications, I said yes to. I knew that. I did not want to pigeonhole myself for those 10 years. Because I was observant enough to go, there was other business owners or professionals or people that I looked up to that they just stayed in a very small lane and never self-actualized, never fulfilled their full potential. So early on, my greatest strength was, okay, do all the foundational pieces, because it will get more difficult as you get older. Even though I think there's kind of a reverse thought process. As you get older, it's going to get easier. That's not true. That's not true. It takes you longer. You have more, social pressure to go try something new, not try something new. So that's probably the number one strength where, when I'm working with someone or I'm just getting to know someone where they're at in their life, I'm like, the choices I made in my 20s allow me the freedom I have in my 40s. And I was willing to take on a decade to know that that was setting me up for my 40s, my 50s, my 60s.
So do you think people don't give them enough of a time horizon.
Yeah.
We
They
don't
give
give
themselves
ourselves enough
10
time.
days.
Right.
10 days.
Yeah.
A month.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, in 2040, like this is literally the thoughts that I have as a business owner, as a person that loves on people. I'm like, okay, the decisions we make right now, the way we do vacations, the way we set up family time, the way I work on my fitness journey, the way I set up my business model. I'm like, is that what I would want in 2030? That's the lens I look at decision making versus, is that what's going to meet the need for this month? I'm never worried about the right now because I'm living out the right now that I planned 5 years ago.
Yikes. What do you say to the people that they're like, screw goals?
Yeah.
Like, I want to live more in the present because if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the future doesn't matter.
I think strategic planning and thinking is not goal setting. Goal setting is you're hitting a dollar amount. Goal setting is I'm hitting a trackable piece. So if someone is not more goal oriented, super strategic, intentional, thoughtful, I can live all of that even if I'm not here tomorrow. So I think that's two separate things. I think goal setting, when you're and not some people are motivated by that. They don't need that dollar amount, that tick on a checklist. That's fine. But when you're living in intentionality, you are more present. When you're living more strategically, you are more in alignment of who you are.
So you take goal setting and put it aside, and you're like, let's focus on your intentions. Like, what does it mean to live intentional?
Yeah. Like, what does 70-year-old Connie, I always say like Grandma Constance, because that's my real name. So I'm like, I might bring that out. I might bring that out when I'm in my 70s and 80s. But like Grandma
if
Constance.
You didn't know that about Connie, there it is.
There you go. Right. I only get called that if I'm in trouble by my mom right now. So, but I'm like, that visual of like, again, there's not a goal. I'm not like, she's making X amount of dollars. She's doing these things. I'm like, what is the legacy that in that season of life I need to be preparing for, practicing, loving on people, getting skill sets around, going and doing adventures, so that when I am Grandma Constance, I am just like, man, I'm able to pay forward more. I'm able to multiply my blessings more to the next couple generations. That is, I honor. That is a very unique way to look at what you do right now ultimately impacts Grandma Constance. I take that as serious as the morning, the afternoon, the night of every day. I want to make her proud.
That brings up a memory. Do you follow Alex Hormozy?
Yes.
And he talks about he has a conversation with himself, his 80-year-old self, every Monday. I love it. And they go back and forth, and it's like, hey, I'm really thinking about starting this, and this is and he's both. Yeah. He's his 80-year-old person.
Yep.
And his current person.
Yep.
And I think that's so amazing how you can talk back and forth and be like, that 80-year-old person keeps the present person in check.
Yeah. And because we're on information overload, as entrepreneurs, as opportunities, the perceived opportunity experience is through rose-colored glasses. We're so obsessed with that next thing. What we're really desiring is hope, consistency, connection. That's really not overcomplicating a lot. Like, I look at, what my day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year looks like. I'm like, it's actually pretty simple because I've boiled it down to go, what is the most important, I say buckets or most important priorities that I can rinse and repeat and deepen and deepen. We're desiring that. We aren't desiring shallow work. We're not desiring shallow relationships. But if you audited your calendar this month, how many times did you bounce around?
Oh, all day, every day.
Yeah. And you wonder why you feel shallow, lack of confidence, not fulfilled. And I'm like, I actually could see that you're not crazy. I could see that. Right. Where when I'm 2 hours at the gym today, deep work, Connie fitness, go and experience that. And then I go into entrepreneurship Connie for a couple hours. And then I go into family Connie later today. And then I'll go into friend Connie tonight. I'm having deep experiences all day long.
That's an amazing life.
Right. That's what I hope to model for people, though. Because to that point, it's amazing, it's possible, but there are so strong boundaries to say, I can't keep bouncing around from idea. next thing, and not take full on commitment. Like when I think about consistency, commitment, discipline, everyone goes, that sounds like such a boring life. And I go, I have an amazing freedom life, because some of those things that everyone's bouncing around on is you're spinning in circles. You're making.
What do your critics say to you though?
I move too fast. Wow, I can say this one too much. Well, I'm very self-aware. So I move too fast. Here's the thing, is because I'm so clear on where I'm going, I don't have speed bumps, right? Or if I do, I have a thought process. I have a place in my calendar to work through that so I can show up the next time. So it's I move too fast, very
But I don't see
self-aware.
that. I see it as moving really slow.
Huh? But in terms of my energy or intensity, they're like,
oh,
whoa,
I see.
They're like, oh my gosh, like you just did 2 hours of a workout, went down to did XYZ, you go that you'll be on a plane ride tomorrow. Like it's too much. And I'm like, but I've compounded my time in my calendar that everything I'm touching is meaningful, right? The other feedback is, I don't think you understand. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, you're seeing me at the end of a process. You aren't seeing overweight Connie. You aren't seeing beginning stage of entrepreneurship. You aren't seeing beginner relationship Connie, right? And I always give that humbleness to go, I know how hard it took to go from overweight Connie to bodybuilding Connie. And I humble myself every day to go, it is hard. It is hard. From beginning entrepreneurship, how am I going to do this? What is this going to look like? How am I going to get through the next quarter? I know those seasons and I hold them very close to know I never take for granted this level of what worldly success could look like. So I think another thing that people go, I will never be like you. And I go, you have every capability and ability that I do. I stepped into it and I failed a lot of times because I got experiences built. And then I started saying, you know what? I have self-trust in Connie finally. So I think that's the biggest disconnect is I am not proving anything to anyone. I have 100% self-trust to go, what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to follow through and complete.
So do your clients come to you and they're like, how can you guarantee that I'm going to be successful?
How can I guarantee? I think it's not so much I'm going to teach you in these 5 hours, buy the 10-hour bundle, and here's going to be the magical formula. I say we're going to make changes as your framework of a CEO. That's my ultimate goal, is over the next, whatever sessions it is, whatever workshops they take, whatever retreats they go on, that they have seen and experienced in a real way how to run their business. Because I won't be by their side Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm not at their team meetings every Friday. So what I do guarantee is when we're in our sessions, we're going to role model so that you have a practice run when it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not going to fire me. I'm not your employee. I'm not a client, right? Like this is the healthiest way for you to practice. So when it does matter, you have the confidence, you have the verbiage, you have a couple reps under your belt. That's what I don't always love the word promise, but that's my commitment to go, you're going to have a safe space to practice that new muscle so that when it does matter and you can put all your uncomfortability in front of me. Super. Let's work through that. You get stuck on something. Super. It doesn't matter right now. Let's get the practice time through. Ruben, I think so many people don't do that planning and don't.
They underestimate practice. They underestimate it. But yet you see the athletes. Yeah. That's all they do. Yeah. Practice.
I don't know. Like so let me ask the real question. When you go and do a workshop that you could go and do today in 15 minutes, do you still prepare, practice, think through what the outline is going to be? Like, do you still do that?
Yeah. I mean, I try. I think I do.
Yeah.
But it's like, I probably don't do it very well.
Really?
I don't do it very well. I think my biggest complaint about myself is I don't prepare enough.
Okay. And I have, again, really worked on, again, you're seeing end result of Connie. Back up 5 years ago, back up 10 years ago, back up 15 years ago. Still work in progress today. Okay. But to be realistic, to say, 33% of my calendar is preparation. So before today's podcast, yesterday, I had 30 minutes and I got out of my head onto paper to go, what's the intention of what our time is going to be? I prepared for that.
Awesome.
Even though I've done podcasts, even though it's going to be interpersonal, all those things, right? Like that's part of the calendaring piece. You know what I'll do when we leave today? Tomorrow, I have 30 minutes that I will debrief. How did I do on that podcast? What did I learn through that process? How could I be better at the next one? So whenever I'm looking at calendaring or whenever I'm looking at preparation and how do I build self-trust, if I'm just throwing myself at projects, I'm not learning anything. I really am not, because the learning happens in the debrief part, right? So I encourage anyone that's going to go do an activity, go do an event, go do a podcast, go, co-host a blog, whatever the experience is, always building in a post review with you, yourself, and you, because that is where the learning happens. I will be better on my next podcast because I took the 30 minutes of reflection. And then when I watch it and hear it, be like, that was absolutely in alignment. That, don't know exactly what you meant by that, Connie. You're going to have to get a little clearer. That is how then you build to go, okay, the next month I was a little bit more successful, instead of I say yes to the next thing and I'm doing the same thing, feeling a little inadequate, not prepared, a little, self kind of conscious on that. I'm like, I don't feel that because I have a preparation and I have a container after to go, you get to process that so that you don't let it bleed into your coaching sessions or your family time.
That's a hard skill.
What makes it hard though? What makes it hard? Because it's new?
The debriefing it, I get a pain in my gut. I'm just like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of I'm exposed.
Okay.
Like I feel like, oh man, I'm critiquing myself. I'm like, that doesn't feel very good. Even though I do want to get better.
Yeah.
I mean, the end result, I like the end result, but I don't like the feeling of, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yep.
Oh, or I probably should have asked that.
Yep.
And yeah, I need to do that.
Well, and you're going to keep making the same, I don't want to call them mistakes, the learning opportunities that it actually then matters. Because then you're going to say that in front of the team. And then you're going to say that in front of a client, and you're going to have no self-awareness that I didn't even know that that's that part, right?
Right.
So for me, I'd rather take on the control, the factor of I'd rather do some self-reflection, mirror moments, be my worst critic, so that I'm not at the mercy of others' feedback, how that looks. Okay, 360 lens where I'm like, that for me feels very overwhelming to go, that's that person's input. That's that person's input. I got that input too. Now I have to do my own self-reflection and take in all the feedback points that they gave. I don't even know how I will change those things or work on those things. When it's just me, myself, and I can then talk through. I encourage everybody. I can talk through and be like, Connie, then this is how you'll change that. Because if you give me a feedback point, I may receive that, but I may not know how to work on that. I may still be in defense. Yeah. But when it's coming from yourself, I'm like,
who you can argue with?
Well, then I actually probably agree with that. And what's your plan with that? So I honor that it's hard work. Being mediocre at something and being excellent at something is both hard work. I'm a big believer to be like, that is a mindset shift where those 30 minutes tomorrow will compound me as a business owner, as a person, as a leader, tenfold.
Yeah. More probably. Yeah.
And it creates more of a credibility for myself to go on with the rest of my day tomorrow to go, good job, Connie. You looked in the mirror. You had some things to work on, and it keeps you humble. It keeps you very humble.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like, Connie, remember where you came from. Remember that the workout yesterday was not as easy as you thought it would be. You had some reflection points. Let's do better today. That is every other morning of my life. Every other morning. I'm like, okay, you did great on that workout. And then I reflect, I'm like, you could have done better on that. Well, good. I don't have a trainer standing beside us. We don't have someone always coaching us right there. We are our best coaches. We know the gaps we have. I know where Connie Kercher can, I always say excuse-itis is something I struggle with. All the excuses. Well, I'm like, I don't think I would let myself off the hook on that. So why am I letting myself off the hook on that?
So this has been an evolution for you, right? You weren't like 100%. Raised this way,
No,
Okay.
no.
No.
First one to go to college. First one to get my master's. I didn't even know what a master's was when I graduated. Absolute trajectory was not from family environment, great family, loving family, not the trajectory of any side of that being modeled for me. Always was very timid, but outgoing because I was masking my insecurity. Always. It was easier for me to be the social butterfly, the chameleon in every group, overachieve, because if I could prove myself in some type of grade, title, certification, I then found identity that still left me empty over and over and over. Every new 3 letters I added to my name, every relation, everything. And I was like, that's not working. And I probably had a pivotal moment at 27 where I had that moment of like, I can't keep trying to prove things to other people because I wanted to make my boss proud. I mean, I was that employee that would work myself to the ground with zero boundaries on my calendar. I was the one that was in the office at 6 a.m., leaving at midnight to make sure that I was getting all my things done and not letting any self-care be even on a radar.
Wow. So you're the ideal employee.
Oh, I was running 3.5 departments again, running circles around people because I was proving something to what extent. So then 27 to about 33, I took those 5 years of, okay, you're going to a new tab on your Excel spreadsheet. What were the things you learned about yourself? And I said, wow, I'm a really big people pleaser and I'm really driven by trying to get this title. And it always left me empty. When I became an assistant vice president, I was like, I have made it for 6 days. And then I was like, this is it? Literally, I was like, this is it? I thought I'd feel better. I thought I'd be more confident. I thought I'd have more freedom, financially more freedom, schedule more freedom, impact more. And I was like, I'm still the same very self-conscious, people-pleasing person, even with this new title, this new opportunity. Wow.
This podcast is sponsored by Estrada Real Estate Group. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing in real estate, we can help you. Text us at 303-832-2120. Now back to the Estradanary Conversation.
So I've learned a lot in the personal development side of, okay, Connie, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of runway time to prepare so that when you want to show up as the Connie you know that you can be, the potential you have, it takes a lot more preparation than I even knew.
Wow.
So that is absolutely a transformation, an evolution, years. I mean, years of hard work. I don't think people would realize how much preparation I take in all aspects of life to show up as my best Connie. But now it's not from, I'm here to prove something to you. It's here to be completely like, I know that's within me and I need to show up for me in that space.
So we're getting the best Connie today.
Yeah. But every day, I'm preparing myself to go, even on the days that I'm at, 50% best Connie, I'm super mindful to go, I'm giving my 100% of that 50 though. I've done all the steps I can control to reflect, to prepare, to be ready so that I can be my 100%. Even if that is 50% for a couple of days. Like that's real life, right? Mm-hmm. But I know that I'm bringing my 100% of what I am capable of that day.
Yeah. I'm just absorbing that because that's a cool concept. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100% of the 50% is still 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yesterday I was probably operating at 80% of my 100%. Today, you know what I mean? Like I was like at my 80%, but I was like, I brought my 100% of my 80. And then, tomorrow it's a long week. I've got many, I'm like, cool, Connie, I'm okay if you have 70% left in the tank by the end of this week, but you're going to bring 100% of that 70%.
Mm. So what did you hope to get out of this?
Conversation, meaningful dialogue. Because again, my heart is with communication and being able to actually understand, okay, how can I inspire and more importantly, aspire other individuals to go, I'm not just motivated by Connie. That wasn't just a great podcast. Them to internally and intrinsically look and go, could I take a couple things that were mentioned and actually do something? Could I actually move to implementation on things that I've been thinking about? I've been wanting to try in my business. I've been, again, in my head about. I hope that people hear our dialogue and go, interesting thoughts. How could I do that? That's hard, but still not step back from it. Go and be like, what are the 3 things that you're going to actually take action steps on from today? Or even if you listen to something else, you read something else today, you had a meaningful conversation with someone else that, that this triggered. What are you going to go implement? What are you going to go change about yourself to the positive? How are you going to go inspire your kiddos to go do that? That would be my greatest intention in my pre-planning of yesterday, to give real concrete examples of that.
Well, one example, I was reading up and researching you and preparing.
Yes.
You did 75 hard.
Yes.
And you've done it multiple times.
Every year. So I did it in 2020. I did the entire Live Hard program.
What's that?
So you do the 75 hard container, and then there's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is 30 days. You take a little break, phase 2, phase 3. They just add on additional action steps. But what you learn is time management. What you learn is boundaries to say no. So they add on like a visualization. They add on speaking to a stranger for 30 days. They add on a cold
it's not
shower.
like the traditional.
No.
Okay.
It's like 75 hard, 2.0, 3.0. Oh, we're going to push you to your max capacity. Welcome to the Live Hard program. It's phenomenal.
I didn't know that there was those layers in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the whole year program, is the Live Hard program. And then what I made a commitment to is every year, no matter what, I will do 75 hard in one chapter of life, right? 1 quarter of life. And I did it just this last October, November, December of 2024. We live right now full-time on a boat in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. And it was a personal challenge for me to be like, okay, that excuse-itis that keeps coming up, Connie, I'm too tired, I'm not this. I was like, rein that in. You don't get to make any excuses. You get to learn how to be adaptable and set yourself up for success to do 75 hard living on a boat. So for 75 days, I would paddleboard myself over to the beach and get my 45 minutes of my outdoor walk-in. Or I would go and do yoga on the back of the swim platform, pouring rain, being like, this is an ideal conditions. Welcome to training in life. Like, I mean, I did not let any factor of, again, visualize this, living on a boat full time, limited access to food, to options, to, again, like all the things that 75 hard bring. And I was like, I did still every workout, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor. Still no, cheap foods, no drinking, no anything like that when you're surrounded by that environment. It inspired so many local friends. I mean, at the gym, they're like, I never even knew this. What's 75 hard? There were some students that did it, because I was like,
oh, right.
Yes. And then a couple of our other boater friends were like, I don't know if I could ever do that. And I was like, you could. And maybe you make a couple variations from what 75 hard is. But I was like, for me, this is a way that I keep my personal development kind of notched in. It's kind of like a restarter.
Right.
Right.
No, I love it.
Yeah. Have you explored 75 hard?
I have explored it. I think I did 30 days in.
Heck yeah.
And then I missed a picture.
Yep.
And I was like, nope, I got to start over.
Yep.
I got to start over.
Yep.
And my
It's in
buddy
the
was
small
like, that
details.
doesn't matter. They're like, I'm like, yeah, it does.
Self-integrity. Amen.
Yeah. And then I didn't start again. And I was like, I got to do it. I got to do What have you seen as far as the benefits from it? You said time management.
Time management, because you do learn of how you fit in. I don't like the word squeeze in, how you fit in, schedule in your 2 workouts. You do, learn how to navigate specialty events, the weddings, the birthdays, all these experiences.
Yes, the social.
You learn how to not be a people pleaser. You learn that because you're going, thank you so much. I'm on this journey called 75 hard right now. That's not something that fits within my meal plan or what I can do. You learn how to have a conversation with a waiter to say, hey, mindfully, could we just not do that with oil and things like that? That's just not part of my thing. You learn how to articulate what you need in a clear, confident way. It has nothing to do with the macros and the workouts and the progress picture.
Do you ever feel like you turned into a person you didn't like?
No. I turned into a person that I would admire if I saw from afar of how much self-confidence she has to go. She's not going to let anything derail her from her goals.
The clarity and the power that comes from that.
And the ability, because I'm like, okay, in the last 2 years, how many people do you have in your life that they walk in full integrity? Don't worry about the meals. Don't worry about like the part of 75, where everything they do is in alignment of what they say over and over, even in really hard circumstances.
Not very many. Yeah. Maybe zero.
Because you see them waver. They get pressure from the family. They get pressure from the event. They get pressure from the business. They get all the pressure points. What I learned is in those pressure points, which pretty much were every day. It's not like Corey was like, man, I love that you have to leave the boat every day and do this. And I mean, there's a lot of technical parts that you're like, how do I navigate that with my partner and talk about this and talk about this with my family? You learn that skill set. That if something is important to you, again, 75 hard is the title of it, but you learn then on day 76, you can articulate, hey, could we go this direction? What about this? Hey, I'm flexible in this area. I'm not flexible in that area. It's an experience for you to know just how much of a people pleaser you have been, how hard it is to step up, speak up, be thoughtful about, okay, I can't really put myself in that situation. Why am I spending time in these situations? You get this whole eye-opening experience to go, I don't know if there's really life in some of those things.
Well, when I hear 75 hard, and when my wife hears 75 hard, she's like, this means we're both doing 75 hard, whether I'm doing it or not. Like it's a team thing. And it's hard to get that support because it's like, if they're not doing it, it's very difficult for you to do it.
It's good. It's difficult. It's not impossible though. I've never had my partner do 75 hard with me. Never. I've never had friends do it with me. I've never had family members. I've had my sisters do it after I did 75 hard. And then my brother-in-laws and my sisters did it. And it was their own like awesome transformation experience. I think if people are on the thought process of I want to do 75 hard, again, you really, really learn, am I extrinsically motivated because I want to lose weight or because it's not a weight loss plan.
Right. It's not. Even though you have workouts and you're eating health.
It's not that. I'm like, it is the best personal development plan. And then again, you lean in to go, no matter who is with me in life, I can trust myself. And again, not from I have to be hyper independent. It's from I am confident in knowing how I navigate all my friendships, relationships, work expectations, responsibilities, exhaustion, but still commit to 5 things a day of my own self-care. If you can't commit 5 things a day to self-care a day, we might have some other issues. You know what I mean?
I must have other issues because 5 it like seems like Everest to me. You know? Like,
so maybe we start with 75 medium with 3. That's so good. So
well,
good.
I guess we're getting we need to wrap up.
Yes, that was so fast.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say that last minute that?
No. This was great being able to have real conversation where I think sometimes people get nervous and skittish about the word hard work, dedication, consistency. I just hope that some light was brought, that actually freedom comes from that. There's life in that. You can be a better partner, a better business owner, a better person for yourself when you actually do have some of those boundaries. You do have some of that resiliency built up, and no one else can do that for you. Like that is such a cool factor of it, is like, it's on no one else. I like that.
Right.
I like then that I can make the transformation happen. I can then inspire others to do that. That's a great gift. That's a great gift to yourself and to others.
There's beauty and magic that happens within constraints.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you. This is so great. Thank you. That's so good. Thank you.